Hi guys, Zambina here. Welcome back to another speed build video, and I'm so glad that you're here for this very special video. Now this weekend, the weekend that this video is being uploaded, is my birthday weekend, and because of that I wanted to do something really special. So this build is a recreation of my childhood home. So this is the house that I grew up in from the ages of 4 to about 19. I was kind of in and out of it for a year because I was in France, but I still technically consider myself as living here. So not exactly sure when I officially moved out, but about that, from about the ages of 4.5 to 19. Now this was a whole thing. This was different than I expected. I knew it was going to be difficult to recreate a place that I knew so well. For several different reasons. Like, it's hard to create something that you know in real life because you obsess too much over the details and getting it perfect. At least I do. That's how I feel when I try to recreate something from real life that I know well, like a house or building I've been in. I don't know if other builders feel that way, but that's how I feel. I've tried a few other things in the past and they've never come out right because of these reasons. But this was something I really wanted to do, and it was difficult. It was really difficult, and full disclosure, I could have gone very granular with this. I could have gone like into the tiniest little details and used like tool to recreate and like modify things to make it as exact as I possibly could, but that would have taken so long. That would have taken absolutely ages, and that was just not something I had time for. Another one of the difficulties with this build was the fact that this house was sold like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 10 years ago now, I think. I cannot quite remember. So I have no like recent pictures or any like easily accessible ways of looking at what it actually looked like. I have old pictures and of course like my memories and things like that. But a lot of those pictures were buried deep into my Facebook or just were like old analog pictures, like physical copies that I don't really have any sort of easy access to. So a lot of this is just from memory and slight details from random pictures I happen to find on my Facebook. Now, you will see occasionally me going back to rooms that I've already done and changing out things, and that's usually because I have found a picture that is relevant to that room and realized that, oh right, that's what that looked like and I've been wanting to change it. Now you will also see that I'm building this a bit differently than I would build a normal house. I'm not making like a shell first or like a frame. I'm just building room by room. Now the reason for this is, unlike a normal quote-unquote Sims house where I would just be making things up as I went along pretty much, I know exactly what needs to go into each room, but because Sims is Sims, and because it's weird with proportions, we all know this, it's not really easy to know how big a room needs to be in order to fit everything I need in it. So that's why I'm just building room by room and adjusting as needed. It will make the house a little bit wonky. You will have probably seen in the little intro video, the roof is a bit wonky, and I apologize for the roof. This house is essentially a square, which is weird because, you know, usually in Sims, when someone's having trouble building, they complain about the fact that they can only build a box or a square. And this house is essentially a square with a hole in the middle. So that's kind of weird. But what essentially happened is not all sides of the square are like equally thick. You'll see what I mean once I start building this more. But that means that the roof is a little bit weird. It's not the best, and I apologize for that, but it was the only way I could manage to do it. I think I've cut me doing the roof out, but you'll see it in the screenshots. It's not the best. It's not ideal, but I hope it's not too horrible. And as you can see, I've basically already finished the kitchen. I made a few changes in the kitchen compared to what it was like in real life. One of them is the fact that there are 3 chairs at the kitchen table rather than the 2 that we usually had, because we had my dad sitting on the sofa and mom and I sitting on a chair each. But I don't believe your Sims can actually sit on the sofa and eat at the table. So I put 3 chairs there in order to try and make it a bit more usable for actually playing in. I also put the thermostat in the kitchen on that small wall that pokes out. That is because in real life, that's where we had our landline phone. But that's not a thing in Sims anymore. So I thought, I'll just put that there. That makes sense. And then I was working on the laundry room / shower room. So we had the laundry stuff in there and also the shower. So the shower isn't in any of the actual bathrooms. I not 100% sure why that was. I think it was because that put it right next to the boiler. So that little room that you see that I've actually just cut out doing because it's just concrete walls, and I put an electrical cupboard in there to try and act as a boiler or like just look like it. That's what the boiler was. So I don't know if that's why the shower was just right next to the boiler, just to make the hot water come faster, because you will see the main bathroom is actually quite far away from where the boiler was. But we did have a bath in the main bathroom, but the shower was in that room there. And then I worked on the room with the blue carpet, which is basically a guest room. It was carpet, and then I drew all over the carpet, and then it became wooden floor instead. But in my heart, that room will always have blue carpet, so that's why I kept it as blue carpet. There will be a little bit of like, obviously no one else is going to know this except me, but there will be a little bit of like disconnect in terms of like things in the house changing and when they changed. For example, like, I'm pretty sure that when that blue carpet was there, my walls were not green yet. And yes, there are 4 different shades of green on my walls. We'll get to that. But yeah, that guest room was basically, it was called Grandma's room for a long wee while, because whenever Grandma would come and visit, that's where she'd sleep, because that couch is actually a pull-out couch. I considered putting a Murphy bed in there, but I thought they kill Sims, and I'm not comfortable with putting that in there. So I thought I'll just leave it as a couch. I also had a hamster at one point, and if I had my first pet stuff, I would have put the hamster cage in there. But I don't have my first pet stuff, and I wasn't feeling like buying it, so I just put more bookcases. There's a lot of bookcases in this house, you'll see. There's a lot of them. But I am working on my room, and my room had several different wall colors through the years. At some points they were pink and purple, but the last ones they were these green colors, and yes, each one is a different shade. I do swap them out later for ones without, like the baseboard and the upper board thing. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, this is my room. Obviously a few things that I had to kind of work around. In reality, I had a corner desk. I think my dad made it custom, because it was still like, it went all the way from like the wall to the wardrobe, as you can see, like in front of the window. But that doesn't really work in The Sims. I couldn't really fashion a corner desk that I kind of liked. It looked very wonky and not good. And I had like 2 desk areas, like one for my computer and then one for like homework or whatever. So to work around that, because in Sims you can't just slide your chair back and forth from one desk to another, which is basically what I did, kind of. I just put 2 desks. It looks a little silly maybe to have just one room with 2 desks, but oh well. It works for the purposes I needed it for. And I'm working on my dad's office thing next. I don't know if is it an office? It was just kind of his room where he has his computer and a TV in there. I was a bit about the TVs. I hesitated about the TVs because I'm not sure if I put too many TVs, because I know at some point there was a TV in the guest room, and at some point there was a TV in this room. However, I cannot remember if they're the same TV and they just got moved, or if there were TVs in both of those rooms like all the time. I cannot remember, but you know, not the end of the world, I suppose. But this room that I'm working on just now was originally my bedroom. I had a bunk bed. It was great. It was painted gold. It was awesome. And the guest room was my playroom. But then once I got a bit older, I didn't really need a playroom. So we moved my room into the corner room where Dad's office/computer room originally was. And the blue room became the guest room, it was always kind of the guest room. It's just, it was my playroom as well. Hence the drawing on the carpet. But yeah, this is just kind of a chill room. I don't really remember much about what exactly he had on the walls in terms of like paintings and such. I remember the shelves above his desk, but I don't really have any pictures of this room. Like, I don't have pictures of all the rooms, obviously. Like, all I've had to go off of is like memory and like things in the background of pictures. So sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. But I hope that in the grand scheme of things, I made it look okay. I feel like overall it looks a bit empty, but I don't know if that's just because in quote unquote normal Sims houses that I build, I will overclutter everything and fill up every single empty wall space with something, which when it comes down to it isn't really realistic, but it just looks better in The Sims compared to in real life. I don't know. But as you can see, I cut on me doing the main bathroom, mainly because this video, as you can see, it's very long already, and I cut out some other things just for length. And you can see I finally built the room at the end of the corridor, and I've closed up the corridor. So this was my parents' bedroom. And you can see that the shape of the house is kind of starting to come together a little bit. It will be a full square, believe me, we'll get there. There's a lot more to do, like the living room and other things. But yeah, I'm just working on my parents' bedroom. I believe they actually had not a wooden floor. I think they had like sort of a white linoleum floor. I don't know why, but also the linoleum floors we have in Sims are horrible. So I gave them white wooden floors instead because I thought that would be nicer. I didn't want to give them one of the absolutely horrible linoleum floors. And yeah, here you see me going back into my room to add some things that I've randomly spotted in pictures on Facebook as I was going through and looking for reference images. Same thing with the chairs. Swapped them out to be more accurate to what we actually had, at least when I was a bit older. I think we may have had different chairs when I was younger, and that's why I put down different chairs at the beginning, but those are more accurate to later in my life. There will be a few things that I go through and put in off camera, mainly because when I went through to take the screenshots, I had seen even more pictures and just things that I felt needed to be in there. So there will be a few things added in the screenshots that you won't see on camera, but it's not a lot. It's mainly on the exterior, I think, plants on the exterior, things like that, when we had vines on the walls and things like that. And just adding some more things to my room. I had a stereo, at least at some point I had a stereo, and like a CD shelf that I'm trying to recreate here. I had an aquarium. I think by the time I had the green walls, I don't know if I had the aquarium anymore, but to me, that spot always had an aquarium in my mind. That's what my memory says. So I gave myself an aquarium. And yeah, originally my bag was sitting over there, but I moved it. There's a lot of like changes that went around, different things that I had throughout my life, or my upbringing, I should say. I can't possibly recreate them all, so I feel like I've just kind of made an amalgamation of all of them. And who's gonna care, really? No one really knows, except my mom, if she watches this. If you watch this, Mom, hi! Hello, thank you for the birthday gift. It was lovely. And just putting down some more details in my parents' room. Again, I don't quite remember what they had on the walls, but I know they had something. So I'm just putting down things, and I know there'd be books. Plenty of books everywhere. There were no actual bookshelves in their room, I think. But there were still always books, candles, things like that. And yeah, just finding things that would fit in other rooms. That's the story of me and clutter. And now you can see that I am starting to work on closing up the inner square of this build. I'm not really sure what you would call this in English. It's like an inside garden, or like not inside, it's outside, but it's like surrounded by the actual house. Is there a word for that? Because I do not know it. But that's basically what that is. Originally, it had like a wooden deck in it. It was like a dark wood that just went across that entire area. But I think it became too much work because it needed like maintained regularly and oiled and things like that in order to stay like healthy, I suppose, because it was wood and it was exposed to the elements. Like it would rain and snow on it and things like that. So they removed it, and now it was just like not gravel, but like small stones, things like that. And then it was easier to put plants there because they could just make little plant beds instead of having to put everything into pots that they had to do when there was a wooden deck there. But yeah, you can see now I'm basically trying to finalize the actual shape of the house. I think I adjust it a little bit because it's really hard to know how much is needed in terms of space when it comes to Sims. I've said it before, it's really hard to judge the proportions that are needed in order to fit certain things in here. Yeah, and the living room wasn't quite that big. That's like basically a storage area. It's just full of just shelves of random things. I don't even think I filmed me furnishing that because it's just a bunch of various shelves and things, but it'll be in screenshots. And that was our dining table. So it's like if we had guests or it was a more like fancy occasion, that's where we would sit to eat. But the kitchen table would be for just regular family meals. But anytime we had guests or if it was a special occasion, we would sit at the nice table. And I am a little bit annoyed at the windows. I haven't mentioned this, but the windows, they're too big. But I couldn't really find any windows that were a happy medium, like that were what I needed. So I went with the bigger ones because I felt like that was better, but they shouldn't be that low. Okay, those windows there should be that low, but like the general ones, like these ones on that wall and the ones in the kitchen, they should not be that low. They shouldn't be that big. But I just couldn't find a good medium that also came in the color I needed, and like without anything in the middle, because there was nothing like in the middle of these. Like they were just plain windows. I believe when we first moved in here, this living room was only about half the size. So right where I'm working now, you see this like slanted wall or diagonal wall. There was a wall there that just went straight through. And we knocked that down and extended the living room to have the like TV area that you'll see I'll be building in just a minute. So yeah, it was basically doubled in size when we did that. But I remember there was like a big plastic sheet hanging in front of the archway into the living room, and they were just like basically banging on the wall with a sledgehammer for X amount of weeks. And then we built this bit basically. And yeah, you see more bookshelves. There's so many bookshelves in this house. It's ridiculous. Like, I do not know how my parents amassed this many books. Like, I love books. All about them, but God, there were so many. But yeah, this is the area where we have couches and TV, things like that. More plants. A lot of the time, I'm not sure that, you know, I'm putting the right kind of plant or that there was a plant in that area. But with this house and knowing my parents, especially my mom, I'm like, there was something here. It was probably a plant. I'm going to go with plant. That seems like a safe option. And again, it's like with the light, I left the saucer lights in the ceiling because I do not remember what kind of lights we had in each room. Like I remember some, like I remember my room and like maybe what the guest room had. But other than that, I don't remember what kind of ceiling lights we had. I just left the saucer lights because I thought they do the job. And in some places where I distinctly remember that there were lights, like floor lights or wall lights or whatever, I'll put one down. But other than that, I've just left the saucer lights in general. And with paintings as well, a lot of the time I'm just kind of guessing because I can't remember exactly. Like, I know which paintings we had. Like, I can remember the actual paintings, but a lot of the time I can't remember where they actually were, like in the house. I remember the painting, but not where they were actually hung up, which I'm not sure, that may make no sense, but yeah. And this is basically our little, I don't know what you call this. The direct translation from Swedish would be an outside room. But I don't know, is it a sunroom? I guess. I mean, it wasn't really that sunny in there because it's like, I think it kind of faced the wrong way. But this is basically, we would often sit here and eat in the summer when it was warm enough. Well, sometimes in the summer we would just flat out sit outside. There'll be an outside area here with like a table and chairs as well. But this was basically like transitioning. If it was like later at night and it was cold, or it was like raining but still fairly warm, we would sit there. And that was originally further along that wall, like it was sitting at a different place. And my dad dismantled the whole thing, numbered and like labeled every single piece of like wood and plank and window that he took down, and he reassembled it in that spot there. Absolutely insane, but very impressive. And you can see I'm putting down some terrain paint for this inner square garden thing. And I think I cut out a lot of me working on that other area where it's basically like, it's like a wooden workshop thing and like a flower arranging table. That's what I put down in Sims. It's kind of trying to represent what it was in real life. I don't think we had like a flower arranging table, but there was definitely like, you know, a place for Dad to do his DIYs and like keep all his tools and things like that. And like a place for Mom to mess around with plants and do repotting and keep all of her gardening tools and things like that. So that's what that is. But it's basically mostly just shelves in The Sims. I think I cut it out because it wasn't really interesting, and it took way longer than it should have because I was cluttering up some shelves. But it's in the screenshots, so you'll see it there. And I'm just putting some more details in the living room. This again is a consequence of me finding older pictures and being like, oh yeah, that was there, I should go put that in the build. Again, my room, more things that I'm finding that I was like, oh yeah, that fits in there. I considered putting like that, like clutter on the floor that's just like clothes everywhere, because to be honest, that's how it looked most of the time. But then I was like, no, this is just my fantasy. I'm building. My room was that perfect all the time. We can pretend. Yeah, just adding bits and pieces everywhere. Putting some things on the walls because I still feel like the walls are too empty. Like the walls are so plain, like they're basically white everywhere. But, you know, what can you do? It was probably how it looked, and it looks better in real life, you know. Like, you don't really think that much about empty walls in real life unless it's extreme, but in Sims, at least for me, and at least the way I usually build, it's something that just kind of sets me off, and I'd be like, huh, there has to be something on that wall, or I will literally go insane. And this is my mother's office. So for a long time, she worked from home. So she had her home office here. And this is what it looked like. And again, by the time I had the green walls, I think she had probably gotten a quote-unquote proper office in the city that she was commuting to. But I kept it like this because I honestly don't remember what happened with this room after she did that. I think it just kind of became storage. I don't actually remember what happened with this room after she got the office in the city. But yeah, she had her own company, her own business, and this is where she worked from basically from the moment we moved here to, I don't know, some point in my teens. I cannot remember when it was. I bet she can remember, but I cannot. Yes, basically more bookshelves, although they had less books and more just like documents of stuff she was working on, things like that, plants, all those kind of things. But yeah, there's not really a way to put like file folders and that in a sort of consistent manner without spending hours cluttering. So I just used the bookshelves because I thought, why not? And then I don't remember what was on that wall, but I just put paintings on a table with some plants and things because it's a safe bet, you know, and it fills up the space. But yeah, you can see glimpses of the gardening and woodworking area that I worked on as well. And this area of the house is basically one that you had to go through the gardening square in the middle, with the garden square in the middle to get to. So this wasn't accessible from the main house without going outside, if that makes sense. So there was no door from my parents' bedroom into here, no door from the living room into like this area. So this was kind of the separate area of the house. So even if this is part of the house, in my mind it was like, it was separate. But it very much isn't, but you know, just the way I thought about it. And now I'm finally working on the little garden thingy here. We had a dining table here, and it's actually just meant to be 4 chairs, but the way that the chairs snaps with the round table in Sims, it's like, you can't really put 4 chairs and make it look good. So there's 6, but that's not really the end of the world. I'm just putting down plant beds here. Full disclosure, I do not remember exactly what plants were where. I remember a little bit, but like, I'm just putting down plants, basically trying to make it look nice. It's not anything overly complicated. There's too much empty space in here compared to what it actually looked like. But again, that is Sims proportions playing up and just being Sims. I can't make it exactly the way it's supposed to look. That's just not possible. But this was basically an extension of our garden, I suppose, because our garden wasn't that big. I think the way I had to do it here was that the garden is a little bit smaller than it was in real life. But it was quite small, and I think this is basically just a better place to keep plants and for my mom to potter about and do her thing. She loves gardening and she loves plants. And I will also say, I don't know if anyone has noticed, I don't know if it's noticeable, I have changed lots. So I originally started building this on a 50 by 50 lot in Willow Creek because I did not know how much space I was going to need, so I figured it was better to start off big. But I have now moved it to a 40 by 40 in Brindleton Bay. So it's on the, I think it's called A Good Home. It's where the Hacking family used to live. I kicked them out. Sorry. Yeah, we don't have that many 40 by 40 lots. I tried like a 30 by 40 and it was like, I could have made it work, but it wouldn't have been really, it wouldn't have looked right to me. I wouldn't have enjoyed that. So I got the 40 by 40 in Brindleton Bay. I think there's only one. I don't know. I'll figure out which lot it is exactly. I think it's called A Good Home. Or A Good House or something. I'll put it in the description down below, along with all the other information. But yeah, so I have moved it there because the 50 by 50 was too big. It was like, again, the proportions. It's really hard to know how big this was going to end up being. And I thought it was better to start off with more than I needed and then just move the house somewhere else if needed. And now I'm working on furnishing the little, I don't know what to call it. Is it called a sunroom? It's a conservatory? Is that what it's called? I do not know. But yeah, this is basically very simple, just kind of what it looked like. It was just made for being able to sit out there and enjoy, even if it wasn't like warm enough to sit outside. And we did eat there quite often, like in the warmer months, warmer half of the year. This was basically where we had dinner pretty much all the time. I remember I liked eating there, but it was always more effort to clean up because you had to walk further. That's how lazy I was as a kid. I'm still lazy. I can still be very lazy, but that was like me being like, oh, I don't care if we're sitting out there, just, I have to walk more. And I'm basically just using, it's not perfect patio, I think is it backyard stuff I'm using? The chairs and the couch and table and that, is it backyard stuff? It's the icon that's like a glass with like a straw and ice in it. Is that backyard stuff? It's not perfect patio, because perfect patio is like this swimming pool or hot tub icon. I cannot remember. But I'm working on the parking space with my parents' cars, the bins, my bike that I loved. That was a really, really nice bike. It was lovely and green and it got stolen. And then I got another bike which wasn't as good, which is fair enough, but I missed that bike. It was great. And I've given myself it in The Sims to try and make myself feel better. And just put in this little shed here. It was just a shed for more like gardening stuff. I think I just put like one of those big industrial shelves in there. I don't know what was in here. Just a bunch of random faff that you accumulate through the years. But as you can see, I'm working more on the exterior now. I cut out me doing the fencing around and also the hedges around because it was just repetitive and just pretty much the same thing all around. Wasn't very interesting to watch. I'm putting down some window boxes. I don't know if there were window boxes on exactly every window. I think there was. Maybe not on the back. I do not remember, but I put them down anyway because I think it looks nice. I'm just working on the entranceway a little bit. We had this little rocky path that led to the left side, which is like basically just a smaller bit of garden really. And then it just kind of ended there. I've not put a super lot of effort into landscaping the garden, mainly because if I was trying to go in and like make it exactly as it was, again, that would take me absolutely ages, and it would just still, it wouldn't be proper, like it wouldn't be right anyway. Like I would still always feel like I didn't do it properly. So I've just kind of, it's lowish effort, the landscaping in the garden, but I still feel like it's, you know, it's fairly accurate. And you saw a glimpse there of the bigger storage bit as well. And yeah, I forgot to film for a tiny bit, but this is me working on, we had like a tiny artificial stream that we made. And that's what that is. I actually had like a treehouse jungle gym type situation that was situated over that little stream. But because we don't have a proper jungle gym, unless I want to put down one of those huge like pirate ship things, which it wouldn't fit and it wouldn't be accurate, I couldn't really put anything there. I considered putting monkey bars over the water, but again, it wouldn't be accurate, and also they probably wouldn't be functional because they were sitting over the pool. So I just left it. I put my swing set there, and I put that swamp tree, which is a bit out of place, but what I actually had was like, it was this big tree that was just kind of dead. It was just a dead like tree that still was standing, like still stable enough to like anchor my swing set to. And so that's kind of why I put that there, because I couldn't really find anything else that fit really what it kind of looked like. Yeah, I put some planks back there because there was always just kind of stuff laying around back there. And I'm working on a little bit of an outside seating area that we had here. Again, this was for eating outside if the weather was really nice. We had like 2 places for eating outside. I realize this now. Like we had one in the inner bit and then one out here. I think the one in the inner bit was usually used for like lunch, if we had lunch outside, or sometimes, you know, having breakfast outside if it was in the summer and it was nice, whereas this was more used for like dinners, because this is where we had, I didn't put a barbecue. We had a barbecue. I should have put a barbecue down. Oh well, too late now. But yeah, you can obviously put a barbecue here if you want to play in this house. Very easy, there's space for it. But I believe we are coming up on the screenshots very, very soon. This build is fully playtested and available on the gallery. All the details for that are down in the description. My ID is Zambina. Everything you need is down in the description, as I said, as well as links to the mods that I use for building. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a very special build for me. It was hard. I'm probably not going to do anything like this again, but I'm glad that I did it and that it's done. And I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!
Young and restless, a lampoon of youth. So who am I to really teach you anything? Do I know what's true? True for you. But at least I think there are some nuggets found along the way. Learn to wait for night to turn into